IVM.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi guys, welcome to GAYBCD, another episode of Quarantine GAYBCD. And sometimes I start laughing because we already start an episode with a clap. And every time the clap sounds different. And today's clap sounded
was
like...
intense.
It sounded like, ketchup ka bottle se ketchup nahi aa raha hai, to piche phachak.
Splotch. that final splotch when you hit the ketchup bottle really hard.
Yeah, so we have a new guy with us, Rishikesh, who's joined us. And in the background, we won't let him talk, don't worry. But his clap sounded like a ketchup splotch, basically. And hi, Sunetro.
Hello, Farhad. How you doing?
How am I doing? No.
All right, let's not go there.
I have reached a point where my tone is one thing. I'm sounding so upbeat to myself right now while I'm talking, but I am not in a good space at all. So, and can I give a proper bipolar answer to how I'm doing? I've had the worst my last 3 days have been an absolute nightmare. I'll get into it later because it's related to our topic. But half an hour before we started recording this podcast, I happened to buy mutton after 4 months. So I'm ecstatic. So,
it's just,
you know what I mean? Like I am in the dumps, but that little purchase of something I absolutely love, don't come at me, vegans. But I bought some mutton. I bought the perfect cut of shoulder and leg. And I am so excited after that. I don't know what to say.
I mean, that's a very, very... valid thing to feel.
I know. Oh my God, I'm Parsi. I've not had mutton in 4 months. That's like, fuck.
So,
Jesus.
Yeah. Like, I mean, what else can you...
What else? Yeah, small joys. It's the small joys right now. And I have to say, you sound a tad bit lower than your usual upbeat self. Is it because we stopped recording a podcast on Monday?
No, I'm actually really, really happy about Friday because... it's like some semblance of normalcy because we used to record our podcasts on Friday nights. Then it's like a mild version of therapy, and then I would go home and then usher in the weekend. So it's like,
we have to have a sound every time we say the word therapy, man. I can't. Not even ta-da. It's therapy time. Oh my God! But for a lot of people who are listening to us today, I don't know if you all know how we decide on topics for our episodes. So usually me and Sunetro just bounce off ideas off each other. More often than not, sometimes it's 5 minutes before we record the actual episode. But this time we decided it yesterday. Also, of course, we read a lot of your messages and your suggestions, and we do topics like those too. But yesterday I happened to ask Sunetro, what do we want to talk about? And he said self-harm. So I just wanted to are you okay, Sunetro? That's...
Yes, okay. I will tell you why.
Where did that come from?
Yes.
Okay.
So it was really weird because I've had a major history of self-harm, like a lot of cutting and all of that. And
I had no idea. I'm so sorry.
I mean, you don't need to be sorry for me.
No, but you know what I mean, where I'm coming from. I empathize that you live in that mental state where you get pushed to that level. So I'm sorry about that.
No, I mean, thankfully, I'm far better. Far better. And I'll tell you why I wanted to discuss it. Because I woke up yesterday and the weather was just absolutely gorgeous. Like in it was windy, and it was so windy that I didn't want to shut my windows at all. So I had kept my windows completely ajar, and I have French windows, so it's like a gale of wind.
Doesn't get in?
No, thankfully, like my bedroom.
You're so lucky.
My bedroom. The only thing that happens is I feel like I'll be picked up by the Chicago wind, northwest. So it's like, so I decided that now is a good time to have a smoke, and I was leaning on my the balcony, the corridor thingy, the railing, and and I was smoking, and I looked at my left hand. So I'm a righty, and hence I used to cut my left hand. And so basically, because of the wind, a little bit of the like a splinter, like a little thing sort of fell on my left arm, and it kind of this is not splinter really. There's like a little cigarette.
Oh, like an ember from the cigarette.
Like the ember. I couldn't get a word.
Okay.
So the ember sort of hit my hand, and I was like, ooh, and I was sort of stroking my hand, and then after ages, I felt the scars. And there are like ridges, and hence I was like, this is something we should talk about. This is something, and literally last time
you couldn't have chosen a greater week and to talk about this, because I've had an episode this week, not of self-harm, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But speaking of it, dude, I used to hate it. Sometimes when you smoke a cigarette, and of course I've not smoked a cigarette in 3 years now, but it gets stuck to your lips, and then you pull your fingers though, and the cigarette just is stuck to your lips, and then suddenly the burnt part gets stuck between your index finger and your middle finger. You know what I'm talking about?
I have never had that.
Oh my God. I know for a fact that all the smokers that are listening to right now, they know what I'm talking about.
So I'm not a serious smoker, so
that's
I
true.
apologize. Yeah.
This is and I thought that's what happened to you. Like you tried to take a drag, and when you tried to take the cigarette away, the cigarette was stuck to your lips, and the burnt part got stuck. And it gets stuck. Huh? I'm not kidding, because you're holding on to the cigarette, so you just pinch on the burnt part sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah. If I can ask you, and I hope this is not a stupid question, when you got singed by that little burn, did it feel good?
No, it felt like burning.
Because again, if we are veering in the direction of self-harm.
No, so I've come to a point where unless it's mild pain during sex, I don't like
your
pain.
Threshold.
Yeah, like like I like
anal sex is where you draw the line.
Actually, anal sex is like, I've spoken about this before. Penetration is like way too much for me, and like for me, choking is good. Like choke the fuck out of me. Like
oh my God,
that's another that's another episode. But like choking, and then
just imagine an episode
like
called
that.
C for choking. That's an episode. C for choking.
That'll be fun.
But fuck. Okay. And
I'm not a masochist. If you're kind of
sure, but again, what about this particular moment led to you want to talk about self-harm as such?
No, so it's just it was a memory. It was a memory of a very formative experience in my life, which was a past memory, and I really. I know a lot of people who do that. I know a lot of people who have done that. And
oh my God,
everyone had similar experiences. And I'm sure people have had similar experiences while growing up, being bullied, this and that. Yeah. I'm sure they've come to a point where
within the community so much. I've seen it so much. I have had friends who have been cutters, and that's the thing, right? Like to someone who doesn't, it might seem like, oh my God, this
what the fuck? Like you're so fucked up. How do you not respect your body?
I had a friend who once we all went out clubbing, and the after party moved to my house. Yeah, and everybody's drinking, having a good time, and my friend kept getting hammered. And this is a friend who I had hung out with enough, not like I know him bachpan se, but like someone I kind of knew well enough the few months leading up to that night, right? And he had which is kind of similar to your style. He had a sleeveless on and a denim jacket on top. That was a common this for him. Like a lot of times I would see that he had a sleeveless this inside and a denim jacket on top. And he kept getting drunk, and he kept making a fool out of himself. You know what I mean? And it was innocent, and nobody was laughing at him because we just looked at him like he's having a good time. He's in his own head. You know what I mean? And I don't know what suddenly switched, but he thought that we all are mocking him, and because he was falling on the floor and he tried to do a somersault at some point. You know what I mean? Like he was just being silly, and it's not like we were instigating or anything, but we were just like, oh, haha, look at this silly boy, like he's so drunk, you know?
Got it.
And suddenly he went into my kitchen and I was like, okay, what's up? And I went to the kitchen and he's crying and I'm like, what happened? I almost said his name. I can't say his name because he's had gender reassignment surgery since, and I don't know her new name. Sorry. But he's crying in the kitchen and I'm like, what's wrong? And he's like, no, I feel like my entire life I've been a laughing stock and I don't think I'll make it through tonight. He started telling me very serious stuff suddenly. Like I was worried to have this person in my house because he was saying things that sounded like he's about to take a very drastic step. He said things like, I might not make it till tomorrow morning if I go home. I can't go home. Because my first suggestion was, and he lived 2 buildings away from me. So my first suggestion was, listen, come on, I got a bike. I'll drop you home. You know, you don't have to, you know, if you're feeling uncomfortable and shit. He's like, no, if I'm alone at home, I won't wake up tomorrow. I won't make it. He kept saying shit like that. And I was like, what are you trying to imply? Come on, just talk to me. It's me. I'm suicidal. It's okay. I'm trying to get down on his level. And I'm not kidding, Sunetro. He just yanked his denim jacket off. And right from his shoulder, straight up to his wrists, there were like almost with tribal tattoo precision. There were like lines. Like he had been a cutter for years and I had no idea, dude. And he's like, this is the kind of shit I have to deal with. And they were, of course, a lot of them were like healed scars. You know, the scarring that happens with self-cutting. Like,
like those dude, little slightly raised.
I can't help but say this. It was done beautifully. Like it was like line, like a very fine line. And they were all equidistant. But I was suddenly stumped, you know, because I am not a therapist. I don't know what to say when a self-harmer is suddenly saying that if I take them home, they will do something drastic to themselves. I am worried on another hand that, oh my God, this person is going to do something drastic in my house. You know, it was a very random situation for me.
Got it.
But I don't know how or what I said in those moments. I somehow managed to comfort him and ensure that he fell asleep in front of me. You know what I mean? And I kept checking on him all night till morning just to see if he was okay. And he slept like a fucking baby. And then I hated him because I was like, fuck, I was stressed out, you know, when I saw that. So what I'm trying to get at is within the community, yeah, sure. Because I also feel... I remember something he said. When I asked him later on when we discussed it, I asked him later on that I'm trying to understand why does a person self-harm, you know? And
I will tell you. Please continue.
Sure, no. Go on. Tell me.
So I'll tell you why. Like it took me a while to figure out why I am doing this.
Yeah.
Why I used to do this, because the last time I did it was. I almost blacked out during a conversation with my father, because it was just like it was the grandfather of impasse,
okay,
and it's just like I wasn't being able to get through to him, and it's so, you know, when you get frustrated, you scream, and you feel like, you know how you want to scream and let your frustration out.
Anger.
Yeah. What happens when even that, like when you can't scream, when you know that there are neighbors and it just manifests in a way where you physically want to vent it. And I remember during this conversation with my father, like I almost blacked out. I have snippets of that moment where I started banging my head on the wall, and then, you know, one of those serrated knives which use the triangular knives which but then the triangular ones which you use to cut a cake and lift.
Yep.
I had that serrated knife and I was sawing my arm, like I was sawing my skin till it was bleeding. And I knew that day, not that I knew what the reason was. I knew that day that maybe the first step is to leave anyone, no matter how close blood relative they are, leave them outside. It is okay to cut them out. And I only met my father after a good year and a half after that, because I could not be in the same space as him if I didn't have. And that time I used to stay in a 1 BHK, and so I used to sleep in the drawing room when he was in. So literally there was like no stepping away from him.
Oh like my God. Okay, sorry. For some odd reason, I just assumed that he was in a different city. You were
No.
This was a in-person fight.
This is when he was visiting me in Bombay. Okay, and sorry, I didn't clarify that.
No, yeah. It's okay.
And yeah, like it drove me nuts because and then that's what I realized, that I need to find my distance from him if I am not comfortable with him. And I only invited him over to my house when I moved to a 2 BHK, where I could really like not bump distance into him if I didn't like it.
Social/parental distancing.
Yes, parental.
Dude, but if I can interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
I thought, again, like suicide, I always feel like a lot of people see these things as black and white. Yeah, like, this person felt so clouded and so bogged down by their issues, they took their life, right? But I repeatedly try to be like the person who tells everyone that, listen, suicide is complex and it's a myriad of reasons why someone might, it's not what you see is what happened. You know what I mean? There are a bazillion reasons someone might kill themselves in that moment. Again, I'll get to that because, again, this is a good week to talk about self-harm, because I was not in a self-harming mode. But 3 days ago, I had an episode that I'm literally dying to talk about, which kind of veers towards self-harm. But coming back to my friend, in that kitchen, and days later, I wanted to understand why. How, as in not judge or anything, I'm an inquisitive mind. I just wanted to know what happens. And I thought his answer and your answer would be different, but you said the exact same answer he said. He said there are so many times that I feel so bottled up and I want to scream and I don't know any other outlet. So if I cause a small cut even, I feel like the only way to let the pain out is if I cause a small incision or I make a small this, and that's where the pain flows out from. Maybe blood might not come out.
But what happens is, what happens is, for like, it might be momentary, but there is a tingle. There is a tingle that numbs you for a moment.
Yeah.
And I'm not romanticizing it. I'm not, not condoning it. No. And because of that tingle, your mind kind of feels a little bit at peace. You know how like after you've like hit your toe on a on a table or at whatever, there is that tingling sensation, and then you just want to sit down, and your mind kind of, there's a head rush. That head rush is what you're looking for, because
it's a high of its own.
But like again, degree. Like that head rush, because you just want silence. You just want to kind of cue and tune everything out.
Sure.
Yeah.
See, for me to physically say that I've been a self-harmer, I can't say that. My maximum experience of self-harming is what in school, you had a safety pin and you would stick it under your, just finely under your index finger ka skin to make it like that. That's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was a headbanger, and I don't mean that in the rock kind of sense. I remember when I used to get very agitated as a child, or because I had so much energy as a kid, and I, not to toot my own horn again, but I used to feel very above other kids and smarter than other kids. And I used to feel that kind of frustration a lot. And I remember a lot of times it was banging my head against surfaces, and which slowly somehow over the years became like a Farhad banged his head again. So I made it a humorous thing. But I specifically remember enjoying banging my head a lot. There was another very stupid thing I used to do as a kid, which was I would, how do I say this? I would put my head between my knees, till all the blood rushes to my head. Okay. And then my face used to be blood red. Okay, I'm not kidding. Like Ravan or like those Bharatnatyam Kathakali.
Yeah.
You know, my face used to be fucking plum red, and I used to hold my breath, and I used to exert this pressure into my face. So sorry, I'm going away, but like basically, long story short, that's my maximum experience of self-harming, because I know I used to do those things either to get my mom's attention a little, or it used to feel nice. If I like suddenly let go and my face is drained of all the redness, I remember it used to feel very good, you know. But I used to get intense headaches after that, you know, so much so that, you know, when my mom used to like, when you've grown up with an abusive mother, as in my case, you know, sometimes you remember flashes of that anger. And I remember a lot of times in this one flash of anger, I remember my mom used to repeatedly say, and I'll say it in Parsi first, she used to say, Mari nas fati just say, which means my capillaries in my brains are going to burst. And this a lot of times she would say while hitting me. You know what I mean? Or like when she's livid about something, and my mom we used to pop veins all over her face. Like she used to get that angry, right? And I feel like I was trying to burst my capillaries. I don't know if that sounds stupid.
No.
But yeah, so that's my experience with self-harm. But I feel like even though I'm very openly, I talk about how suicidal I am, I feel like I'm still very far away from self-harm, because they feel entirely different things to me. Self-harm, I know it can lead to like more drastic suicidal kind of steps later on. But I have never done this whole little, I need release of pain, or like a small, you know what I mean? Like I've never done that. So I just, sometimes I feel like I'm alien to the subject and I shouldn't talk about it because I won't. But this scream thing, I remember, he's like, sometimes when I can't scream from my mouth, I need to scream through my skin. And it's something that really stayed with me, you know, like, yeah, fuck. And is that all, or is it a battle? Like, is it something you've repeatedly had to like, deal with?
So I promised myself the last time I did that I wouldn't repeat it. I wouldn't ever do this to myself, because I respect myself, my body, and so I basically equated that act to you know, pillaging my body, and somehow I of course I struggled. There is a struggle, but yeah, like I think it's far better to, I think it's and this is the section where I say, and with my conversation with my therapist, one of the things that, you know, she's constantly taught me is to wait. And I'm a very
as in wait
just wait to react. So the moment like the moment you decide on that, then sometimes I'm going to tell you the things that I go through. Okay. I'll give you an example. I have a friend living in Germany.
Okay.
Couple of days back, she put up a really, really funny Instagram story. Actually, this is that, remember that lady on Arnab Goswami's
who was eating.
So she put up that clip, and I was like, oh my God, she's the queen, and we have very similar. Like we both have a very similar sense of humor. And there was no response. And I saw that she'd seen my message and there was no response. A regular, normal person would think, sure, you know, she's busy. Yeah. My mind went to, I might have done something wrong. I might have hurt her in some way that I don't even remember. And she is kind of, you know, slowly, gradually distancing from me.
This is today, like last week when I ended with Sunetro, are you angry with me?
Yeah. No, and today, okay. Today I was just generally just because of the weather, I was thinking of, you know, it was kind of chilly in the morning, so I was thinking of New York, and I messaged my friend from New York, you know, asking her, and because I messaged someone in New York, I also messaged my friend. So I basically started messaging all my friends around the world. And I came to her, my Germany friend, and I messaged her. And my mind after I sent the message out, my mind spiraled because I couldn't see when like she was on last, like when so I thought, oh, she has blocked me on WhatsApp. And basically she totally has cut ties with me.
Okay.
And then she responded, like she was like, then we had a whole like chat.
Classic much ado about nothing.
Yeah, like, and that's me. So for me, so I take a breath before before basically bestowing this idea upon me that the world is about to kill you, or the world is about to.
That's the thing, no, Sunetro. Again, it's a very common technique, right? Even with anger, they tell you the count to 10, you know?
Yes.
It's a common technique. But I think again, I don't want to use the word maturity, but you really learn to do that only after you reach a point, when you've done this fucking routine long enough to know that it is futile to immediately react. It is stupid to immediately get angry, you know, like step back, process, then give a reaction, you know. That only happens after years of fucking doing it wrongly, basically, making mistakes. And B, I feel a lot of times it is starting to inculcate a voice in your head that is there in those moments, because it is when you're angry. What are things like anger and love and real feelings I'm talking about, right? The real things that we feel as humans, like pain, anger, you know, the real stuff that actually, sure, it has the face of a word, pain and anger. They are a word, but could you actually, could you actually describe what is anger? You know what I mean? And I remember, have you ever seen the movie Waking Life?
No.
Okay. Let's say I tell you right now, I love you. Yeah? This is communication, right? I'm saying I love you. Now, the word love leaves my mouth, okay? It's in the air for a second. It reaches your ear, okay? Then it goes through like a Byzantine fucking network in your brain and fits to your idea of love and your experiences of love and your past or reactions of love. And basically, in the end, you take what you want to take away from what I'm saying, you know? But in reality, you have not interpreted it exactly the way I want to say it. You get what I mean? So in that ways, language is inert in so many ways, right? Symbols, or they're so inert. Because, so I feel like a lot of times in life, once you learn how to, I am in an angry situation, this has happened 0.5 seconds ago. I am very angry about this, but losing my temper right away is not the right thing to do. Why am I feeling so angry? What is it about this situation that has made me feel so angry? You know, to develop that voice takes a while. And sometimes I feel like, I hope by saying these things to our listeners, we can even speed up the process. Like, you'll save yourself years of so much turmoil.
No, I completely agree. I was having just a couple of days back, I was on this like somehow it was like a 3-hour call with one of my exes, and we are very close to each other. We are no longer exes, we are like best friends now. And we were just generally talking about how we were really good for each other, but we are at the best place for each other as can be, because we would have driven each other crazy and whatnot. And it really, like, and we were talking about how this person was, volatile in their own ways, and I was volatile in my own ways. And one of the things that I said was, I just wish I knew what therapy was. I wish I knew earlier, far earlier, that being like I have an emotional readjustment to make.
Yeah.
And it is important for me to make that. And just bottling those emotions will not help. I wish I knew that. And I would have had far more years of, and this is what I said, I would have had far more years of happiness. And then I changed my term because I've had years of happiness. And then I said, no, so I'll tell you. And then I changed it to, I would have had far more years of peace, mental peace.
Okay.
And that's what, for me, what therapy has done, what opening up. I just generally opening up.
A lot of times, there's a little, how do I say this? Do you remember in school we used to have rain shadow region?
Yes.
Like there's a mountain and then rain falls on one side of the mountain, but it doesn't fall on the other side because it's the rain shadow region. I feel the rain shadow region of mental illness is the reluctance to go to therapy because we feel that the answers are within us. Which,
oh my God, 100%.
You know what I mean? So I'm going to go a little 10 steps before what you are saying. Sure, therapy is absolutely go for it. And I sometimes, again, the kind of privilege I feel when I easily recommend therapy to everyone. You know what I mean?
I know.
Because in this lockdown, so many of our listeners, so many of my friends have messaged me, hey, what's your therapist number? Because everybody is going batshit crazy right now.
Yeah.
And I actually have and I said it in a previous episode also, and a lot of you messaged me about this particular thing. So I'm going to say it again. I have a proper Excel sheet of therapists across India. It's an elaborate Excel sheet where some therapists don't even charge money. It's a free consultation. You can just talk. So in that sense, I don't feel privileged. Nowadays, access to therapy is easy. Okay. And it can be free. So even if you come from, sometimes a lot of times we just negate the idea because holy shit, for like my friends, when they find out that, oh my God, your therapist charges $2,000, and my therapist actually charges, I hope he never hears this episode, but I recently found out, I think this is his system. This is a very Larry David moment, okay? But sometimes when I've sent friends who I know have petty issues, like, oh, my mom took my vape away. Oh my God, I'm so like, those kind of like issues. And I need to see a therapist, those extra little teenage angsty kind of, again, I don't want to belittle this, but you get it. Some people, because I always say this, one of the most fascinating places I find to sit in, okay, is a therapist's waiting room. Because when you look at all the other people around you, okay, either you start feeling like, holy shit, I'm doing way better in life than other people, or you start feeling like, oh my God, I'm not doing well at all in life because everybody looks so normal.
Yeah.
But I have noticed my therapist, if I recommend people who go to him with silly shit, right? Like, oh my God, my mom won't buy me this, or shit, I'm going on saying mom, so the person I'm talking about might understand. But if you go to him with petty shit, he charges way more because I think you're wasting his time. So he once charged my friend $4,000. Okay, and this was the friend who was like, his biggest issue that particular week was his mom had confiscated his vape. Oh my God, I can't help but laugh. But what I'm trying to get at is, when you, the reluctance to go to a therapist is real, and acknowledge it. Because what happens is, a lot of times, spiritually, like the answer is always within you. That's sold to you in a lot of ways. And I'm not denying that. A lot of times today, if I think, what isn't therapy, you'll agree with me, isn't therapy just positive reaffirmation? You say something, your therapist just agrees with you. Yeah, and then you're like, yeah, actually my therapist is right. But no, you are right. You already know the fucking answer. Today, if we are talking about self-harm, the obvious clear answer is that don't self-harm. You know what I mean? But what happens is, the journey we take between self-harm and don't self-harm, we start thinking and we make all these barriers and hurdles, and we overthink things and we underthink things, and we don't think in the right direction, and we go in the opposite direction, and next thing you know, you are like in that maze in The Shining in the end. You know what I mean? Like, you are like Jack Nicholson. You can't fucking figure out how to get out of that maze. But what I'm trying to get at is, it's okay to be reluctant about getting therapy for this. And Sure. Again, since the main topic is self-harm, please, the first thing you need to do is see a therapist.
Yeah,
really, because
completely.
we are nobody to tell you what to do in a situation of self-harm, because we will never fully understand what, if you are a self-cutter or a self-harmer, there's a acronym or an abbreviation for it. I'm forgetting it right now. Self-injury something something. I think it's called SIDS, if I'm not mistaken, self-injury something syndrome. But if any of our listeners are people who indulge in that, and I don't want to say indulge, but who are bogged down by that, who can't get out of the trap of self-harm, please consider therapy first thing. And if you are reluctant because you feel like the therapist might judge you for doing something like this and all, do not. Therapists see people like this all the time, like us all the time, so many times. That itself is therapy, knowing that, holy shit, sometimes I just see my therapist's face and I'm like, holy, I just know I'm telling him a problem that I think is endemic and unique to me. But I see his expression or his response and I feel like, oh my God, I think 100 people have told him this already. Like, I'm not the only one. I'm not some fucking fresh guy who's giving him a fresh take on something. No, everybody is telling. If I'm telling him, can I, just to make this conversation a little light, I told you, when I told my therapist, I think I have a porn addiction and I'm masturbating way too much, the first thing he said is, all my patients are masturbating right now. So you know what I mean? Like, I thought like, maybe God. I am the one who's like, fucking, what the fuck, Farhad, you're joking off 4-5 times a day, you're watching porn so much and you're edging all day, because again, I have the time and the liberty to right now. You have this problem, you have to talk about it. And then I talk about it and I realize, holy shit, everyone's going through it. So we are all in this together, basically. And I don't want to veer this conversation in a way where this is ending this conversation, but is there anything else you want to add in terms of like self-harm? Because I've spoken so much right now, and there is something I want to talk about that happened to me 3 days ago. But
go ahead.
What?
Go ahead.
No. It's just, it was too intense, and it was very intense, and it doesn't involve self-harm. God, should we give trigger warnings and stuff? Because sometimes, people give trigger warnings online before everything, and I'm like, I read trigger. Let's say my trigger warning is anxiety, right? I have anxiety. And if I read trigger warning anxiety, it's not like I stop reading it after that. I still go ahead and fucking read it. You know what I mean? Trigger warning, suicidal thoughts. It's not like I'll suddenly stop reading it. I'll still read it. So I guess, please, whoever's listening, there's an overarching trigger warning over this conversation.
This episode,
because it is about self-harm and suicide. And please, again, get the help you need. Help is available everywhere. It has never been easier to get help. It has never been cheaper to get this kind of help. And oh my God, I'm going to go 10 steps ahead and tell you this, if you're listening, that I am always blown away. I've been on medication for 10 years for my bipolar disorder. Yeah. Psychiatric medicines are the cheapest. I'm not even kidding. Like, the best, like stuff is like 17 rupees a strip, 20 rupees a strip. So a lot, because, in the start, I remember I used to be broke when I was considering therapy. And I thought, holy shit, if this guy charges this much, and then the medicines must be 7, like it's like a dermat. I don't go to a dermat because I know a dermat is going to tell me, put this liquid on your shoulder and this liquid is 3,000 rupees. No, do trust me, psychotherapeutic medicines, that's not the right term, but you get it, are super cheap, super affordable, and you can turn your life around very quickly if you just consider and put yourself on that track. 3 days ago, oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to say this. I was having the best day, Sunetro. Probably one of the best days of this lockdown. I'm on the verge of clinching a job finally. Okay, it's not final, but I'm on the verge of getting a new job. The money is decent for the pandemic situation. Decent as in, it's kind of like good. You know what I mean? Right now, it's terrible out there. It's terrible work-wise. I've been like applying like crazy. People don't even have the decency, like companies don't even have the decency to tell you you've not got the job. I wish companies did that, where they just call you and tell you, hey, sorry, we are going with someone else. That's so polite and nice, so that someone doesn't keep waiting on you, So either I'd not hear from so many interviews, or they just were like, sorry, we can't afford 1 lakh. I can only give you 10,000 rupees. And I'm like, how does that work? Like, should I, because I need 10,000 right now, but sure. And so I'm finally close to clinching a good job. It's in my space. I will have a good time doing it, all of it, right? Now, the thing is, I've been through a couple of rounds and I had to present a PPT of ideas, okay? I was given 10 days to make that PPT, okay? And me being me and lacking motivation right now in this pandemic, I did sweet fuck all for 8 days, okay? I did not do anything. Every day I would, morning to night, my brain would be like, Farhad, get started on the PPT. You'll have to do lesser. You can do more research. Your PPT will be better. This job is almost in the bag. Don't fuck it up. I started putting that kind of pressure on myself. And it's the 8th day. And every day I've told myself, today I'll do it, today I'll do it, today I'll do it. But I did not do it. 8th day, I don't know what got into me. I fucking woke up at 7. I sat down and I made a spanking fucking amazing PPT, okay? I was aiming for like 8 slides, but I ended up with 25 slides. I jammed my dick in so hard into that PPT that I knew this job is mine, okay? So much so that when I sent the PPT across and the interviewer saw it, he called me back saying, this PPT is amazing, okay? And I would like to let you know, you are the only person now here on we'll be interviewing with, okay? Which made me feel like, okay, this is in the bag. So I was feeling super accomplished that day, right? I was feeling high, like I had a rush, you know, like I utilized myself, I achieved something great. In the evening, I was talking to my friend, okay, shout out to Yash, who says literally every 30 seconds, but fuck that. I was talking to my friend Yash and we were laughing like about a certain thing for 2 hours. Okay, it was one of those 2-3 hour. It wasn't a phone call; it was a voice note for the back and forth. But dude, we were laughing. Means like I don't remember the last time I laughed like this. Like I was sweating. I could feel the blood rush to my head. Sorry, I'm being so descriptive, but I need you to understand what an amazing day I was having. Okay, and after 2 hours. Okay, of this, he suddenly said something again super funny. Okay, and I wheezed. Okay, like I just, you know that, like he said something so funny. I just gasped. Okay, and I don't know what happened. In a flash of a second, Sunetro, I felt I was getting a stroke. You know, and I just got stunned. I went from laughing to not laughing in 0.1 second. I just suddenly froze. From laughing to non-laughing. And I thought I'm getting a stroke. I just said, Yash, I'm just going to call you back. And I hung up. And I got an intense anxiety attack suddenly. Because what happened in that second, I thought a capillary has burst in my head. And it's bleeding blood into my brain. Okay? And this was just a flash, okay, of a thought. But once that thought creeped in, Sunetro, dude, I'm not kidding. This happened at around 10:30 in the night. I did not sleep till 11 a.m. next day. The whole night, every time I would shut my eyes, forcing myself to sleep, I would look at my phone screen. I would look at a light. I would try to stand up. I would try to drink water. Anything I did would make me feel like, oh my God, this blood is filling up in my head and it's going to pour out of my eyes and it's going to pour out of my ears and my head is going to explode. And where does self-harm come in all of this? I started thinking that if I bash my skull against the wall or if I take a hammer and bludgeon my head, that release of blood from my skull will be the only thing that will give me relief right now. So why am I saying all of this? Because even after going through years of like anxiety and depression and trauma and suicide and all of that, yeah, I have developed a voice that asks me to be rational. But sometimes to find that voice is so difficult. Like till 11 a.m., trust me, till I fell asleep, you know, I just constantly kept telling my head that I need to bash my skull in. I need to kill myself right now. That is the only, or I need to cut my jugular so the blood will flow out. And I remember my mom once told me if someone has blood pressure issues and if they have high BP and they faint, you should make a small cut on their ear because the blood gushes to the ear and apparently that's good for this. So because I thought of that, I kept thinking of cutting myself, my jugular, my this. Of course, I did not act on it. I sent like, and because this happened at 10:30 in the night, I sent like 50 messages to my therapist in that frantic night. Like, oh my God, I want to kill myself. I'm done. I'm this, I'm that. And he was sleeping. So there's no way he could have. He responded at 8 in the morning and he asked me to immediately go to the hospital. But I'm not going to go to a hospital right now. You know what I mean? And in the periphery, I know I am freaking out. That in reality, obviously, there's no blood that has filled up in my brain because I laughed a lot. You know what I mean? But
no, I understand. I mean, I get where you're coming from. See, for me, obviously, like you must have, like my experiences have been very, very different. Like when I was growing up, it used to be situations where, for example, if I'm in school, and if I heard a slur against me, like, there was a lot of like underhanded catcalling and,
got it.
Shit like that. Every single time that would happen, in my head, I had failed myself. And I had failed myself in terms of, I don't know, butching myself up maybe a little bit. How could you let that happen to yourself? So I'd cut myself just to not feel the guilt. I'd cut myself, but also I would cut myself in places where it would not be visible. So I used to cut myself on my thigh.
Oh my God.
So that no one would see it. And only when I started cutting myself on my hand only after like I moved away from home and stuff. And every single time, someone would say, oh, so ye to he, she hai, or like ye to ladki hai, or, I remember there was this incident where this was back in school where a teacher had kind of sent for me, and she basically had asked this kid from like the 3rd standard to come and fetch me from my class. So this kid had no idea who I was and came to my classroom, and he mistakenly entered so I was in class A and he entered class B, and he asked, is Sunetro here? And then suddenly he came to me and he said, those whatever, he used someone's name and said, they told me to ask in the class, and luckily that time the recreation break was on, and he basically came up to me and said, that person came and told me to go into the class and announce, is there a chhakka in the class? Is there a chhakka named Sunetro in this class? And
was the teacher present? Like,
no, so that's what he didn't get to do it because the break was already on. Like it was just time for lunch break. So he finally like said, is like he figured that I am the one. And as soon as I heard it, I had a moment where, like again, like I went to the school bathroom. And I had like a cutter and I cut myself in the bathroom. I was like, fuck. How could this happen to me? Like, did I do? And my strain of thinking was always, this is karma. I must have done something wrong to someone. That's why this is happening to me. I must have fucked someone over. That's why this is happening to me. I'm feeling this embarrassment because I've been like an asshole to someone. And that used to completely plagued me every single time. And
I wish I could hug the fuck out of you right now. I'm so sorry. Oh my God.
I mean,
that is so
I just want to put it out there. And like today I just want to I look at all these experiences and and I'm so glad we talk about it, because I am a sum of all these experiences and
expression. We find ways to express. And today, here we are, we found the medium to express exactly those things we suppress. Today, again, whoever's listening to us, it's a small way, whether it's through art or it's through the work you do or your job or your anything, your passions, your hobbies, your mountain climbing, whatever the fuck it is you do. It is so important to understand that eventually you reach an age where you learn to divert that kind of traffic and implement it to improve yourself or make yourself better every day. Because today, when we both are talking about as very fractured, damaged human beings, still, we both are very fractured and damaged human beings, maybe, but we are still talking about it in a sense that it is okay to be fractured. It is okay to reach that point. I just hope everybody knows that it gets okay eventually, I guess. And
yeah. I mean, and it, you know what? I've always held a little, I've always held it against this term, it gets better, because you know what? It doesn't get better.
It doesn't. You get better.
You make it better. You make it better. You have to do something actively to.
Yeah.
And of course, things line up. Sure. But you have to start that momentum. You have to make that first call of
absolutely
opening up to someone. And it's so fucking difficult. It is so difficult because, I've gone through 4 therapists. I've gone through 3 therapists till I found the right therapist, because every single time I used to just completely dismiss a therapist saying, why am I paying this person? Literally, and this is something that I'm sure so many people have thought. This comment of saying, why should I pay someone like 2,000, 3,000 rupees for telling me what I already know?
No, or even worse, sometimes it's like therapists are not gods, and sometimes therapists themselves are problematic,
Exactly.
There might be a therapist who might tell you that, there is a way you can be less girly.
Absolutely.
So, it is also find... it's a permutation combination. You have to sample till you find the right therapist.
I found such a great rhythm with my current therapist. She's so empathetic, because with me, I can't have a therapist who's an advisor. I have to have a therapist who's at my level, who speaks to me as an equal, and she does that. And I'm sure she doesn't do that for everyone. I'm sure she has like different modes, and that's where what I find so so encouraging to continuously talk to her, and I look forward to talking to her. So just, I mean,
it's perfectly fine to not get the answers you want from a therapist. It's perfectly okay to call out your therapist on his face if you think, or her face. There are so many times I have told can I tell you something? My therapist is the leading, he's on the frontier of the LGBTQ movement, okay? But sometimes I tell him that you are so outdated in terms of LGBTQ dating. He knows law-wise, he was actually the person who got it abolished from the psychiatric homosexuality is a disease. He's the single or 2-3 people in together. They all got together and they were the ones who got it struck off the board that homosexuality is a disease. Until very recently, it was considered a disease. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm talking about a person like that. But sometimes when I'm trying to talk about dating to him and how it is bewildering and how I hate gay men and how I'm just done because it is terrible. He has this weird optimism. No, I know couples who've been together for 8-9 years and shit, which is right. I get it. There are couples. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. But in my head, I feel like he doesn't know what it's like to be on Grindr, nowadays. When you are trying to talk to someone about something deep, let's say, and sure, I might be wrong to first of all go to a place like Grindr to expect a deep conversation in the first place. But some serendipity, some sort of kuch to hona chahiye. I feel it is dead. You say something nice, someone will say, show asshole. And I'm like, यार ये क्या है यार बेंचर मैं उसको इतना अच्छा जोक मारा और ये बोल रहा है गार्ड निकाला मतलब क्या
No, but at the end of the day I just have this to say, that it I understand that everyone takes time. Everyone will take time, no matter how. First is you will take time to open up, and like you were saying, find your rhythm. You will possibly go through. It's impossible to find the right therapist at one go. You will just the same like a doctor. Every doctor isn't the best for you. So
can I be a little Karen Walker, Will and Grace?
Yeah.
The therapist I see now is the first therapist I ever saw.
I mean, yeah,
so
like
I hate to rub it in everyone's faces, but
that's great.
Yeah, it was love at first sight.
Yeah, but the point is that don't dismiss it. Like if you're feeling, here's the thing: if you're not feeling okay, it is all right, but it's also important for you to want to feel okay and work towards that, because
and therapist is such a serious word. You actually end up just becoming friends with them. They're like friends in the end who sometimes give you maybe, and that's a different level of reluctance we are not even going to talk about. But so many times you will face reluctance if your condition, because see, self-harming is, again, it's not alarming and I don't want to belittle anything, but I can only assume that it is something that involves taking medication to feel okay and happy, and you know what I mean, to level out.
I mean,
that kind of
it may or may not.
Again, I don't want to like black and white this. I don't want to black and white this, but
the point is like it requires
work,
assistance.
Sure.
It requires assistance.
But
and
I'm just saying,
work.
God forbid, if you are one of those people who actually has reached a point where they recommend medication, the reluctance to take medicine is also, I did not in the start. I was so against.
No, I mean, I understand. I just want to put the message out for everyone. I've had this conversation with multiple people. Take the medicine because it works. It works.
Man. Even if it does not, sometimes it will just give you a breather till you can figure life out or, figure yourself out. So many times, like right now, after that episode I had 3 days ago, and dude, it has only been crazier since then. Fucking Beirut exploded, like a whole fucking city exploded. And people are like, today when I went down and I'm talking about this mutton and shit. Yeah, I was like, fuck, like people are not distancing, whatever, right? But I get what you're saying, man. I totally get what you're saying. Just do it. Just quietly do it. Like go through it.
Yeah. Don't quietly go through it. Like
just
go through
quietly
it with
as in like just shush.
Yeah. But yeah, like the bottom line being, if you're going through this, if you have gone through this, and if you are feeling the need or urge to talk to someone, it is important to talk to someone. This is not okay it's not okay for you to want to harm yourself, and don't feel guilty about it. Don't feel guilty about it. But you deserve to feel not this feeling. And do what you can to, like, take someone's help to not feel this. Is what I would end, this my note.
No better way to end it, honestly.
Yeah.
Just get it. And so many times it's just so like simple to say, get help. That's what we end up. Yeah. That's what it boils down to. But like, just there's a reason it boils down to that,
Yep.
So that's pretty much it. Oh my God. Don't harm yourself.
Yeah.
And don't feel bad about harming yourself. I don't know. But this was a heavy conversation. There are sometimes there are episodes where I feel like I'm on the brink of like my eyes get a little moist. And when you said your school story, fuck, it really hit me, man. I just hope you heal. I hope everybody heals. I hope like gay people are kind to each other and we all help each other heal, because I feel sometimes so much of this, all of this, what we talk about, self-harm, self-this, self-hate, self-this, it comes from us being constantly having to suppress who we are as individuals.
Yeah.
Your parents telling you, don't sit like that, don't put your leg like that, don't move your hands like that, why is your voice so girly, chakka, hijra.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, let's not trigger people more. Like
No, but I'm trying to say like...
Let's round it up in a happier way. Let's heal.
I love you, Sunetro.
Yeah.
And I hope the love travels through the Byzantine of your brain. And
done.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for talking to me, Sunetro. I'm sorry I spoke so much today. And wow. Okay. I can't wait to do this again with you next week. Guys, send us suggestions, send us new topics. We'll discuss it. This is it for this week's GAYBCD. Bye.
Bye.
A I hope you enjoyed that show. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money. So it's been a really, really fun week this week. We've had a great episode with Anand Nilakanthan on Cyrus Says. Anand was one of the writers of Bahubali, and he's done some really, really fun stuff since that. Ashish Vidyarthi also had a really good episode on his show, Begin the Journey. Please do check that out. You do know Yuddha is back, right? Definitely check it out if you haven't. Yuddha is our show about Indian ancient warfare. It's hosted by Anirudh Kanisetti and Aditya Ramanathan. Really, really great show. You should check that out for sure. And I forgot. Rishikesh was on the network as well. He was on Absolutely Right with Aditi Sarana. Do definitely check that out. With that, hope to see you next week.
Namaskar, this is Ashish Vidyarthi. Yes, my friend, these are challenging times, but in these challenging times, we can create something extraordinary. Do take time to listen to my podcast, Begin the Journey, available on the IVM Podcast, website, app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Remember, we have a great opportunity called life. Cheers.